Всем добрый день. Меня зовут Беляева Ева. Я являюсь руководителем отдела развития в компании.
Head of the development department in the security vision company. We provide the automation tools for detecting and reacting to the incidents. Today I will be speaking about this new idea of ours, how to make SOAR systems and reaction systems more available and more effective.
Мы посмотрели, опросили наших заказчиков, у которых...
What seems to be the problem these days? The SOAR system sometimes has been installed for a long time, for more than 5 years, for more than 10 years. So we really wanted to measure how the system changed over the time and how the system used it. We got a little bit upset out of it. There are some things that are not very positive about it. Some people use this SOAR system not as a SOAR system. You use it as a file exchange board, as a messenger, as a ticket system, without utilizing orchestration, automation, and all the other capabilities of the system. The second problem here is that the SOAR system has changed and customized so many times for each and every customer that you cannot tell it from the implemented option, implemented version. Why is this so happening? It's happening because the product is trying to be what it's not intended for. It is so happening that the person can see a lot of actions, but they don't really know which action to tackle. It's just like going through a game in the speedrun mode. Just to run it in a speedrun mode, they know which task to choose and who to contact. And in the SOAR system, they know that they have an infrastructure and they have things to look for, but this SOAR system seems overloaded and we have a quest out of it. And when a hacker penetrates a lot of data which are very discrete, not grouped properly in the forensic, so the specialist, whatever their level of competition is, can still experience some problems with this. So this information garbage that we have to deal with needs to be addressed. And we revealed the most popular problems that customers have, the most frequent problems. I would like to highlight that sometimes the SOAR system does not operate the way we would like it to operate. Not because it's bad or the people are bad, but because it sometimes needs a lot of time for adaptation. Sometimes the audit was not conducted in a proper way. Sometimes it cannot be conducted in a correct way. And sometimes we do not fall into a proper alignment with the correlation rules. Or sometimes the hacker uses more inventive new tactics in the network so that we cannot adapt our correlation engines to the new hacker activities. So basically, the ways to react to this goes through so many changes that we'll just have to assemble the product again on a new infrastructure using a different concept that the customer has with the policies and allowances. So it seems like in every SOC, the analysts work in a different way and they do not work as a united team. So the question is, can this really be addressed? Can it be fixed? Our experience in work with commercial SOC solutions prompts us with one interesting solution. We are moving from static to dynamic, and this infrastructure is changing constantly. The infrastructure will be different. Yesterday and today, new people are joining in, new equipment is installed, the companies move their offices, and it's all changing. You cannot do much about it. We can only change the attitude to this problem. And each and every time, instead of putting all of the types of the incidents in the playbook, like, for example, the leakage, the virus, etc., instead we'd take a new way in phases that would be abstract, and the playbook would be embedded into them dynamically. We know something about the infrastructure, we know about something about the world around us, and each time when we have an incident, we check and verify what can be done about it, what can we use here, how, which button can we press, which cannot be pressed here, what are the roles that the operator has. So the people that operate in SOC do not go through the same things in recommendations. They have a dynamic picture, they have this incident in a particular moment in time using all of the security methods, all of the sources of the information that are available. How were we able to come up with such a platform? How was that possible? We understood that everything, the best solutions had been created before we did, so we decided to take into account the development tools. We decided that we'd have to make this system simpler, not only for analysts, but for admins who would have to use and employ and utilize this system. So we decided to split the playbooks, the scenarios, so that each and every one would be responsible just for one function that is defined there. So in order to make sure to add the new protection solution, new solution, and add a new server segment there, we don't need to go into detail and remember how these scenarios were written. We just need to find this particular solution and change just that. An incident is an object. The hosts to which the system has been triggered is an object. Accounts is an object. The attributes, the processes, the services are objects again. So this approach will help us once again more correctly and more specifically identify the objects that we'd have to work with in detail. We're responsible in this box solution, and we are responsible how we interact with other systems. In our system, we don't need to manually write a code, we don't need to know the programming languages, but our code is also tested and should always be safe. It should always be safe, but it should be seamlessly integrated in the right time, in the right place, in the right format. It should be embedded like that in the existing format. Thus, our architecture of the system utilizes this approach which we borrowed from development, and it helps us each and every time rightly make up a playbook based upon the types of the incidents and the experts' evaluation. We check the objects in the incident. If there are plenty of hosts, we scan it. If we have a topic of an email, we suspect some phishing attempts, etc. Each time we see and check the infrastructure and find the solution, find which policy has been embedded by the customer, which will help us adapt to the rules and regulations that do exist already. But we need to conduct audits on a regular basis, and each time we just need to point out some things in a couple of clicks. You don't need to write any new code, you don't need to write any new app. It'd always be sufficient to use a box solution, but you just need to prompt the system about it on time. So what's this playbook all about, the dynamic one? There are 7 stages, and we reconfigure these stages each time we get new information, each time we get a new context, each time we enrich this, each time when we give a classification. And the result of the classification, the suspicion about the incident, would be identifying the tactics of MITRE attack. That's the most popular. And also with the support MITRE for databases, and we just need to use all of the knowledge that we have. Our experts have prepared the recommendations for MITRE, which we found by checking the incidents, and also the recommendations of the post-incident. The post-incident recommendations that we just need to delegate to the analysts by DUOPS. so that this incident will never ever rise in the system, so that we eradicate the malicious part once and for all. I would like to show you some abstract case and how it works with lots of customers these days, and how it works sometimes when you just try to do something out of the system. We make friends with some people. There are some policies, there are external systems that you can work with or you cannot work with. And this picture sometimes hangs on the things that are all possible or not possible. The problem starts when we have to learn the information and do some forensics, but you cannot do any proactive activities, like, for example, this host stories and other solutions. And this approach, which had been adopted previously, it was all based upon creating a new connector, like a new connector 2.0. We create a new code where we put the rules by which we need to react and the rules that we cannot react. And from this, we move to a more proper picture, yes, and that would be the more proper picture for you. We identify by policies, the visual policies, that are visually clear in the user interface, so that we just take some points, we just put some text there, that you cannot overload the host. But if you are working in the third line and you have an application, you have a ticket from support, you can do it automatically. And this time this will be recalculated dynamically. You can do it today, you cannot do it tomorrow. Today you can do it with one host, you cannot do it tomorrow. You can do it with two tomorrow. It's dynamic, and there'd always be a link checking up for the actual state of affairs.
Так. Что будет делать аналитик после того,
What would an analyst do after everything has been done for him or her without identifying, without need to identify what needs to be done? Or maybe everything was done in the automated fashion. Here is a more interesting story starts when we start building an incident out of an incident. When we try to get the strategy of an attack and we combine the correlated stories into a single story. Sometimes they relate, and only the analyst on the third line of support, they would understand in one segment is somehow related with removing the copies. And we provide one single investigation window, and we'd identify the formula with which it was not that simple. It's just like the weights you'd set when you used to train the artificial intelligence. You may get different results depending on these weights. It was happening exactly like this here. We just needed to understand which parameters would be more important and which would be less critical, just to make this picture more transparent. All these numbers and all these acronyms can be seen on this slide, but instead I'll speak about the real case we tested. We took a few reports as a basis, which we realized in our test site, in our infrastructure. For demo, we chose a case that we came up with on our own in order to show you how the hacker is going through the infrastructure. What were the problems that we faced with? Our test site was too perfect, so we allowed everything. We just allowed automatic containment. We put too many security solutions there. They worked very well, and this chain broke at the first stage. In order to understand how it works in the real environment, we decided to make our network scheme more complicated and complex. We turned off some correlation rules, and what we did, we were slightly modifying the settings, and we deleted an antivirus somewhere. Somewhere we did not patch the server, in order to make sure that if you let the system think about this logic, the system will react too correctly, too well. Sometimes the system may also make a mistake, make an error. So the final verdict should be in the hands of the analyst. It's the analyst who should honestly and bluntly say, yes, I have investigated everything and I'm closing the incident. And for this, we provide them with everything, and they get a free hand in react. They can see the activities that are available for them right now. They know what to do and what not to do. And they understand what is happening and not happening in the infrastructure. They see it all. And now, when we've reached the point when we have this hardcore playbooks are no longer needed for us, we can actually play a detective and finally decide what would be the solution of the problem in our system. Please do it well, don't do it bad. And now it's time for your questions.
Включен, да? Добрый день.
Hello? Is a question. If this system is deployed in a critical infrastructure, and the system dynamically changes the rights of the owners, and there may be a guy there sitting there, he can do something in his role, and tomorrow there's a critical system and the system has changed everything. So can we roll back to yesterday's point? These policies cannot be updated automatically. What we have is a single role who would set these rules and policies. And they have been singled out separately so that any network expert can figure it out. So it seems like that we investigate the dynamic incidents. To which level you reach this kill chain? We show the techniques and tactics, and we set the timeline the way that we can show even the source event, in CM. Some parent processes, some processes that had already been launched. It goes through this enrichment, and we mainly use CM that it brought, and sometimes we can identify the alerts and events coming from the sources directly. But what if we have a billion events a day? What would be the load? We're loading this system in the process. I cannot answer this question right now. Soon we'll understand, but all these raw events are not incoming in a flow. We set the requests the way just to get the proper required CRS events, required processes, so that we do not pile up the view. Don't pile up the view with this garbage, but only with the important things. Load it only with the important things. You mentioned this Sigma rules. Well, there are 1,000 of them. Severity, things like that. There are many of them. Yes, there are many of them. We've put 15 in a box. So I've implemented some of them in a box. So we take a box, but how do we come up with a kill chain? Seems like that they are filtered. How do we combine them in the kill chain? For example, the horizontal move of a hacker may be happening in a tricky way. Some events repeat, of course. IPs repeat, the use of the tools repeat, etc. And we try to catch these tiny things and relate to them and connect them in a smart way. So if we find something that had been exploited from source to destination, then we'll see where else it was spreading from this source to destination. Was that related to the correlation? with the raw events. Theoretically, we can do it with the raw events. Now you have 15 rules: IP source, destination, the use of the tools, and maybe use of the accounts. And where it's matched, there it would be the kill chain. Yes, we have some alerts, we receive some alerts, and we put them in the system. We enrich these alerts, and we find the related ones by using Sigma rules and by some indirect rules. We find some dangerous events not as an incident but as an alert, and we take them if they're really important. So there is always an enrichment. Okay, I understand your point. Thank you very much for your answer. Thank you very much, all of you. Please check out our booth there with more questions. See you next time.